The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council chamber. Commander Sarah Chen walked through the massive doors, her boots clicking on the crystal floor. Above her head, a giant hologram showed a spinning ball of death. It was a neutron star, one of the most dangerous objects in the universe, and it was heading straight toward the threshold system. Sarah looked around the room. Hundreds of alien beings sat in curved rows, all watching the hologram with fear in their eyes. The Zerathi looked like tall, walking crystals. The Valorans had 4 arms and silver skin that seemed to glow. The Kryn were covered in brown fur and had eyes that could see in complete darkness. All of them were scared. High Chancellor Vexthar stood at the center. He was a Zerathi, and his crystal body pulsed with nervous blue light. His voice came out like music from wind chimes. "The situation is clear," he said. "We have 18 months before impact. The neutron star will destroy everything in the threshold system. 47 billion lives will end." Sarah felt her chest tighten. 47 billion. That was more people than lived on Earth. More than had ever lived on Earth in all of human history. "We have prepared evacuation plans," Vexthar continued. A new hologram appeared showing thousands of ships. "Every available vessel from all our worlds will help. We can save approximately 12% of the population. 12%. Sarah did the math quickly in her head. That meant 35 billion would die. A Valoran scientist stood up. Her name was Elder Shimura, and she was over 300 years old. "We have studied every option," she said, her 4 hands moving as she talked. "We cannot move that many people faster. We do not have enough ships. We do not have enough time." "Then we build more ships," Sarah said. Every alien in the room turned to look at her. Vexithar's crystal body flickered. "Commander Chen, we respect your species, but you do not understand the scale. Even if we started building today, we could not construct enough vessels in 18 months. The mathematics are absolute." Sarah's second-in-command, Dr. Marcus Webb, stood up beside her. He was holding a data pad, and his eyes looked tired. Marcus never slept much when he was working on a problem. "What if we don't evacuate?" Marcus said. The room went silent. Then everyone started talking at once. Alien voices mixed together in a wave of sound. Vexithar raised one crystalline hand, and the noise stopped. "Dr. Webb, please explain," the Chancellor said carefully. Marcus tapped his datapad, and numbers filled the air above them. "I've been looking at the neutron star's trajectory. It's moving at 0.03 times the speed of light. That's fast, but it's not impossible to work with." "Work with?" A Kryn captain named Throck stood up. His fur was standing on end. "You cannot work with a neutron star. They are death in physical form. A single spoonful weighs as much as a mountain. You are speaking nonsense." Marcus smiled. Sarah knew that smile. It was the smile he got when everyone told him something was impossible. "What if we moved it?" Marcus said. The room exploded. Aliens shouted in a dozen different languages. Some laughed. Some looked angry. Vexithar's body turned bright red, which Sarah had learned meant he was shocked. "Moved it?" the Chancellor repeated. "You want to move a neutron star?" "Yes," Marcus said simply. He expanded his hologram, showing complex equations. "We could build a network of gravitic tethers. Think of them like ropes made of artificial gravity. We anchor them around the star and pull it off course. Even a small change in direction would make it miss the threshold system." Elder Shimura studied the numbers. Her silver skin had turned almost white. "The energy requirements," she whispered. "This would require the power output of 100 solar systems." 94, actually, Marcus corrected. "I did the math." "It is madness," Throck roared. "Physical madness. No species has ever successfully manipulated a stellar object of that mass. The technology does not exist. Yet," Sarah said. She walked to the center of the chamber, standing next to Vexthar. "The technology doesn't exist yet." Vexthar turned to face her. His crystal body was still red with shock. "Commander Chen, I understand your species is young. You have only been in space for 200 years. But there are laws of physics, there are limits to what is possible. Sarah reached down and picked up her coffee thermos from her belt. She had been drinking coffee all morning, preparing for this meeting. She held it out toward the Chancellor. "Hold my beer," she said. The translation systems in the room struggled with the human idiom. Confused murmurs spread through the aliens. "I do not drink human beverages," Vexthar said, confused. Sarah smiled. "It's an expression. It means, watch what I'm about to do. We're going to move that neutron star, Chancellor, and we're going to save all 47 billion lives." "This is impossible," Vexthar said quietly. "Good," Sarah replied. "Impossible is what humans do best." Dr. Webb stepped forward. "We'll need resources. Ships, materials, scientists from all the species. This isn't just a human project. This is everyone working together." "To do the impossible," Elder Shimura said slowly. She looked at the equations again, and something changed in her eyes. "I have lived for 300 years. I have never seen anyone suggest something so completely insane." She paused. "When do we start?" Vexthar looked at the Valoran elder, then at Sarah and Marcus. Around them, the council chamber buzzed with argument. Some aliens were already leaving, shaking their heads. Others stayed, staring at the equations with wonder and fear. "You will fail," Vexthar said. "This plan will fail, and billions will die anyway." "Maybe," Sarah admitted. "But if we don't try, billions die for certain. I'll take maybe over certain any day." The Chancellor's crystal body slowly changed from red to blue, then to a pale purple Sarah had never seen before. She wondered what emotion that color meant. "Very well," Vexthar said. "The Council will vote. But Commander Chen, understand this. If you fail, you will not just doom the threshold system. You will waste resources that could have saved billions through evacuation." "We won't fail," Sarah said. "How can you be so certain?" Sarah looked at Marcus, who was already making notes on his datapad, his mind racing through engineering problems. She thought about humanity, about every time someone said something couldn't be done, about the first flight, the first trip to the moon, the first faster-than-light engine. "Because," Sarah said, "humans don't know how to quit. It's our superpower, and our curse." The vote would come tomorrow, but Sarah already knew what she would do. Win or lose, succeed or fail, humanity was going to try to move a neutron star. After all, someone had to be crazy enough to try. The vote passed by 3 votes. Just 3. Out of the 200 council members, only 101 agreed to let humanity try. Sarah knew that 101 aliens believed in the impossible, or maybe they just believed in humans. 3 days later, construction began. The site was in deep space, 5 light-years from the threshold system. Thousands of ships arrived every day. Human vessels came first, big and small. Earth sent everything they had. The Mars colonies sent their mining ships. The Jupiter stations sent their massive cargo haulers. Even the small moon bases sent what they could. But humans weren't alone. Serathi crystal ships appeared looking like flying diamonds. Valoran vessels came, old and elegant. Even some Kryn ships joined, though their captains still thought the plan was crazy. Dr. Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the construction platform. It was called Firebase Alpha, and it floated in the darkness like a small metal moon. Around him, screens showed hundreds of work sites. Aliens and humans worked side by side, building things that had never been built before. "How's the progress on the gravitic anchors?" Sarah asked, walking up behind him. Marcus didn't turn around. He was watching a screen that showed a massive ring-shaped device. It was 3 kilometers across and covered in technology that glowed blue. "Slow," he admitted. "The Zerathi engineers say we're pushing the limits of what gravity manipulation can do. Every anchor needs to generate a field strong enough to grab a neutron star. That's like trying to hold a mountain with a fishing line." "Can we do it?" Sarah asked. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "I'm making up half of this as we go." A Zerathi scientist named Krelvin approached them. His crystal body pulsed with orange light, which Sarah had learned meant he was excited or nervous. Maybe both. "Dr. Webb, we have completed the first anchor prototype," Krelvin said. His voice sounded like a bell ringing. "We are ready for initial testing. How confident are you?" Marcus asked. Krelvin's body flickered. Confident is not the word I would use. The mathematics suggest it should work. But the mathematics also suggest we are all insane for trying this. Sarah laughed. Welcome to humanity, Krelvin. We've been insane for thousands of years. They moved to the testing chamber. It was a massive room carved out of an asteroid with walls 3 meters thick. The prototype anchor sat in the center, suspended in magnetic fields. It looked like a ring with strange symbols carved into it, but Sarah knew those symbols were actually quantum processors. Beginning test sequence, a Valoran engineer announced. Her name was Mora, and she was Elder Shimora's granddaughter. She had volunteered immediately after her grandmother. The anchor began to glow. Blue light spread across its surface like water. The air in the chamber seemed to bend, and Sarah felt her stomach twist. The anchor was creating a tiny gravity well, just strong enough to pull in small objects. Increase power to 30%, Marcus ordered. The glow got brighter. A loose bolt on the floor suddenly flew toward the anchor, pulled by its artificial gravity. Then a piece of debris, then more objects all flying through the air like they were falling upward. 50%, Marcus said. The anchor screamed. Not a sound exactly, but Sarah felt it in her bones. The gravity well was getting stronger, pulling harder. Cracks appeared in the floor where the anchor was tearing at the metal. 70%. The entire chamber shook. Warning alarms blared. On the screens, red numbers showed the stress levels going higher and higher. Krelvin, can it handle full power? Sarah shouted over the noise. Unknown! The Zarathi scientist shouted back. No one has ever done this before. Marcus? Sarah looked at her friend. Dr. Webb stared at the screens, his fingers moving across the controls. Numbers and equations filled his display faster than Sarah could read them. She knew he was calculating, predicting, guessing. His whole career had been about pushing past what people said was possible. 100%, Marcus said quietly. Do it. Mora's hands hesitated over the controls. Then she pressed the button. The anchor exploded with light. The gravity well became so strong that the air itself seemed to pull toward it. The chamber floor buckled. Steel beams bent like they were made of soft clay. The walls cracked, and then suddenly the anchor stabilized. The screaming stopped. The light settled into a steady blue glow. The gravity well was holding strong and stable. It works, Krelvin whispered. His crystal body had turned bright yellow, which meant he was amazed. By all the ancient mathematics, it actually works. Sarah let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. How many do we need? Marcus pulled up a new screen. 48 anchors around the neutron star. We need them in perfect positions, all firing at exactly the same time. Even one mistake and the whole thing fails. How long to build 48? At current speed? 14 months. We have 16 months before the neutron star hits the threshold system. Sarah nodded. So we have time. Barely, Marcus said. And that's if nothing goes wrong. Over the next months, the construction grew. More ships arrived every week. Humans worked 20-hour shifts, sleeping in their spacesuits. The Zarathi scientists pushed their crystal bodies to the limit, calculating equations that made their minds hurt. Valoran engineers with their forearms could work twice as fast as anyone else. Even the Kryn, who had doubted from the start, began to believe. Firebase Alpha became a city in space. 10,000 beings lived there now, all working toward the same goal. Cafeterias served food from 100 worlds. Humans learned to eat Zarathi energy wafers. Valorans learned to drink human coffee, though they said it tasted like liquid metal. Sarah walked through the corridors every day, talking to the workers. She learned their names, their stories. She met a human welder named Tom, who had left his family on Earth to help. She met a Zarathi mathematician named Prill, who had abandoned a prestigious university position. She met a Valoran pilot named Kesh, who had lost her home in a previous disaster, and swore she would save the threshold system. They all believed now. They all thought maybe, just maybe, this crazy plan could work. 8 months into construction, they had built 23 anchors. They were ahead of schedule. Marcus was smiling more. Sarah was sleeping better. Even Krelvin's crystal body stayed yellow most of the time. That's when everything went wrong. The test site was 60,000 kilometers from Firebase Alpha. They were testing 3 anchors at once, making sure they could work together. It was supposed to be routine. They had done it before. Sarah was in her quarters when the alarm went off. Red lights flashed. The station's computer voice said the same thing over and over. Emergency, emergency, emergency. She ran to the command center. Marcus was already there, his face pale. On the screens, she could see what had happened. The 3 anchors had failed. But they hadn't just shut down. They had created a feedback loop, each one's gravity well interfering with the others. The combined gravity had torn apart 2 construction platforms like they were made of paper. "Casualty report," Sarah said, her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. A human officer named Lieutenant Park checked his screen. 327 confirmed dead. 89 human, 112 Zarathi, 94 Valoran, 32 Kryn. Another 200 wounded. The command center was silent. 327 people. 327 beings who had believed in the impossible. Who had left their homes to try to save strangers. Gone in an instant because the technology had failed. "Stop all testing," Marcus said quietly. "Shut everything down until we know what happened." High Chancellor Vexthar appeared on the main screen. His crystal body was deep red, angry, or sad, or both. "Commander Chen, Dr. Webb, the Council is demanding an immediate meeting." Sarah knew what was coming. The Council would say they had tried. They had given humanity a chance. But people were dying now, and the plan still might not work. It was time to go back to evacuation. "We'll be there in 6 hours," Sarah said. After Vexthar's image disappeared, Marcus turned to her. "Sarah, maybe they're right. Maybe we should stop. We can't guarantee this will work. We can't even guarantee more people won't die." Sarah looked at the screen showing the destroyed platforms. Debris floated in space, twisted metal that had been someone's workplace an hour ago. She thought about the 327 names that would be read at the memorial service tonight. "Get me the failure analysis," she said. "Find out what went wrong. Fix it." "Sarah, we're not stopping, Marcus." "Not when we're this close. Those people died trying to save 47 billion lives. The only way to honor them is to finish what they started." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded and turned back to his screens. Sarah walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a neutron star was racing toward the threshold system. In 10 months, it would arrive. And somehow humanity had to be ready, even if the rest of the galaxy said it was impossible. The Galactic Council chamber looked different this time. Last time Sarah had stood here, the aliens had been scared but hopeful. Now they just looked angry. High Chancellor Vexthar's crystal body was dark red, almost black. Around him, the other council members whispered to each other. Sarah could hear some of the words even without translation. "Failure, waste, death. 327 beings are dead," Vexthar said. His voice was cold and hard. "They died because of this project. How many more must die before you accept reality?" Sarah stood at the center of the chamber, alone. Marcus was back at Firebase Alpha working on the problem. She had wanted him here, but he refused. "I can't fix the anchors and argue with politicians at the same time," he had said. "We know what went wrong," Sarah said. "The anchors created harmonic resonance when they... We do not care about technical details." A Kryn council member stood up. His name was Elder Groth, and his brown fur was streaked with gray. "We care about results. You promised you could move a neutron star. Instead, you have built expensive machines that kill people." "It was an accident," Sarah tried to explain. "An accident that proves this plan is impossible," Vexthar said. "Commander Chen, the Council appreciates your effort. We truly do. Humanity has shown remarkable courage. But courage is not enough. Physics is physics. Some things cannot be changed." Elder Shimura stood up. The old Valoran looked tired. Her silver skin was dull and her forearms moved slowly. "I supported this plan," she said. "I believed in it. But my granddaughter was on one of those platforms. She survived, but she lost her best friend. A young Zarathi engineer named Priel." Sarah felt her chest tighten. She had known Priel. He had always been excited about the math, always solving problems with a smile in his voice. "I am sorry," Sarah said quietly. "Sorry does not bring back the dead." Elder Shimura said. "We have 6 months left. 6 months to evacuate as many people as we can. Every day we waste on this project is a day we could be saving lives." A vote was called. The council voted on whether to continue Operation Stellar Shift or to return to full evacuation mode. Sarah stood there watching as alien hands raised and lowered. Lights appeared on the board, red for no, green for yes. When the count finished, it was 173 to 27. The project was over. "I am sorry, Commander Chen," Vexthar said, and he actually sounded sad. "You may return to Firebase Alpha and begin shutdown procedures. All materials will be redirected to building evacuation vessels. Perhaps we can save 15% now instead of 12. Your efforts will not be completely wasted. Sarah walked out of the council chamber in a daze. 15% instead of 12? 3% more. That meant maybe another billion or two saved. And 35 billion still dead. Back on Firebase Alpha, she called a meeting. Every human on the station came. They filled the cafeteria, sitting on tables and standing against walls. There were maybe 2,000 humans here, all looking at her. The council shut us down, Sarah said simply. We have 1 week to pack up and redirect resources to evacuation ships. The room was silent. Then someone started crying. Sarah couldn't see who it was. Tom, the welder she had met months ago, stood up. So we just quit? We just let those people die? I don't know what else to do, Sarah admitted. The council controls the funding. They control the resources. Without them, we can't build the rest of the anchors. Marcus stood up. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Probably he hadn't. What if we didn't need their funding? Everyone turned to look at him. What are you saying? Sarah asked. I'm saying we do it ourselves, Marcus said. Earth still supports us. The Mars colonies, the Jupiter stations, the belt miners, they're all humans and they all voted to help. We can fund this ourselves. Marcus, we need billions of credits. Earth's entire economy is willing to pay it, Marcus interrupted. He pulled up a screen showing messages. Hundreds of them. Thousands. While you were at the council, I was talking to people back home. The Prime Minister of Earth, the Governor of Mars, the Belt Consortium. They all said the same thing. If the council won't help, humans will do it alone. Sarah read the messages, her eyes widening. Earth was offering to mortgage their entire planetary economy. Mars was selling its rare mineral reserves. The belt miners were donating their ships and equipment. It was crazy. It was financial suicide. It was the most human thing she had ever seen. Even if we have the money, Sarah said slowly, we still need materials. Ships. Technology. The Zarathi have the best gravity manipulation tech. The Valorans have the computing power we need. Then we ask them directly, Tom the welder said, not the council. The people, the scientists and engineers who believe in this, ask them to stay. Sarah looked around the room. 2,000 human faces looked back at her. They were tired. They were scared, but they weren't ready to quit. This is insane, Sarah said. Yes, Marcus agreed. Completely insane. When has that ever stopped us? The next day, Sarah sent a message to every scientist and engineer who had worked on the project. It was a simple message. The council had pulled funding. Earth would continue alone. Anyone who wanted to stay and help was welcome. Anyone who wanted to leave with the council's blessing could go. She expected maybe 100 to stay. She got 8,000 Krelvin. The Zarathi scientist sent a message. The council says it is impossible. But I have learned something from humans. Impossible is just a challenge. 400 other Zarathi scientists joined him. Mora, Elder Shimora's granddaughter, sent her response in person. She walked into Sarah's office with determination on her face. My grandmother thinks we should stop. She thinks we're wasting time. But my friend Prill died believing we could do this. I won't let him down. 2,000 Valoran engineers stayed. Even Captain Throck, the Kryn who had called the plan madness from the beginning, stayed. I still think you are all crazy, he said. But I would rather be crazy with friends than sane and watching billions die. Firebase Alpha kept working. But now they worked without the council's support. Money came from Earth in a steady stream. Mars sent rare metals. The belt miners brought their ships to help move materials. Humans who had never left their home planet donated their savings. Children sent their allowance. It was insane, beautiful, and desperate. But then 3 months into their independent work, new data came in. Marcus saw it first. His face went pale as he read the numbers. Sarah, he called. His voice was shaking. You need to see this. Sarah looked at the screen. The neutron star's trajectory had changed. Not much. Just a tiny shift caused by some gravitational anomaly in deep space. But that tiny shift meant everything. We don't have 6 months anymore, Marcus said quietly. We have 4. The star will hit the threshold system in 4 months. Sarah sat down hard. 4 months. They had been building for 10 months and still only had 31 anchors. They needed 48. The math was simple and brutal. They couldn't build 17 anchors in 4 months. It had taken 10 months to build 31. It's over, Sarah whispered. We can't do it. Even if we worked every second, we can't build that fast. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled. It was a strange smile, the kind that made Sarah nervous. What if we didn't need to build faster? He said. What? What if we changed the plan? Marcus pulled up his calculations. We can't move the neutron star gradually anymore. We don't have time, but what if we moved it all at once? That's impossible. The stress would destroy the anchors. Yes, Marcus agreed. It absolutely would. But we only need them to work once. We don't need them to last. We just need them to survive long enough to throw the neutron star around that black hole. He pointed to a spot on the star map. There's a black hole 30 light days from the neutron star's path. If we use the anchors to slingshot the star around it, we can change its direction in one maneuver. Sarah stared at the calculations. The numbers were terrifying. The forces involved would tear apart anything within millions of kilometers. The timing had to be perfect. One mistake and the neutron star could end up flying into the threshold system even faster. This is compounding madness with suicide, Sarah said. I know, Marcus said, but it's our only chance. We can build 31 anchors in 4 months if we push hard. 31 might be enough for a single slingshot maneuver. Sarah looked at the numbers again. She thought about 47 billion people who had no idea their lives depended on this crazy plan. She thought about the 327 people who had already died. She thought about humans and Zerathi and Valerans and Kryn all working together on something impossible. When the Council finds out about this, they'll say we're insane, Sarah said. The Council already thinks we're insane, Marcus pointed out. Sarah laughed. It was a tired, slightly hysterical laugh. Okay, let's do it. Let's throw a neutron star around a black hole. Why not? We've come this far. That's the spirit, Marcus said. Outside the window, Firebase Alpha glowed with work lights. Thousands of beings worked in the darkness of space, building machines that shouldn't exist, trying to do something impossible. And they had 4 months to save a star system. The next 4 months were a blur of work, fear, and hope mixed together. Firebase Alpha never slept. The lights stayed on all the time, and someone was always working. Humans pushed themselves until they collapsed at their stations. Zerathi scientists calculated until their crystal bodies cracked from stress. Valerans worked with all 4 arms, not stopping even when their muscles screamed. Dr. Marcus Webb didn't sleep for 3 days straight. Sarah found him in the engineering bay, staring at holographic equations that floated in the air around him. His eyes were red and he swayed on his feet. Marcus, you need to rest, Sarah said. Can't, he mumbled. The timing has to be perfect. If we fire the anchors even 1 second too early or too late, the neutron star will miss the black hole. Or worse, it'll hit the black hole and create a gravitational wave that destroys everything anyway. And you can't figure that out after you sleep? Marcus finally looked at her. Sarah, we're going to be controlling this manually. A computer can't calculate fast enough for all the variables. Someone has to be there making real-time adjustments. That someone is me. I need to know these numbers in my sleep. You're not going to have any sleep to know them in, Sarah pointed out. A Zerathi scientist named Krelvin approached them. His crystal body was a dull gray, which meant he was exhausted. Dr. Webb, we have completed the final anchor. All 31 are now in position around the neutron star's path. Good, Marcus said. He pulled up a new display showing 31 blue dots arranged in a sphere. Now we just need to get them close enough to the star. That's the part I'm worried about, Sarah admitted. Getting ships that close to a neutron star is suicide. The radiation alone will cook anyone who gets within 10,000 kilometers. The Valerans have upgraded the radiation shielding, Krelvin said. It should protect ships for approximately 43 minutes at close range. Should, Sarah repeated. This is beyond tested limits, Krelvin admitted. We are, as you humans say, guessing. The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in practice. They would use tractor beams to pull the anchors into position around the neutron star. Then at exactly the right moment, all 31 anchors would fire at once, creating a massive gravity well that would pull the star toward the nearby black hole. The star would whip around the black hole's gravity and shoot off in a new direction. If everything worked perfectly, the neutron star would miss the threshold system by light years. If anything went wrong, well, no one wanted to think about that. 3 days before the operation, High Chancellor Vexthar called. His crystal body appeared on the main screen and he looked tired. Sarah had never seen a Zarathi look tired before. "Commander Chen," he said formally, "the Council has become aware of your new plan." "Let me guess," Sarah said. "You think it's insane." "That is exactly what we think," Vexthar agreed. "You are going to attempt to throw a neutron star around a black hole using untested technology and manual control. This is beyond insane. I do not have words in my language for what this is." "Then let me give you a human word," Sarah said. "Hope." Vexithar was quiet for a moment. "The Council cannot support this. We cannot endorse something so dangerous, but—" He paused. "We will not stop you either. If you succeed, 47 billion beings owe you their lives. If you fail, at least you tried. That's all we can ask," Sarah said. "Commander Chen, one more thing," Vexthar said. "I spoke with Elder Shimura. She asked me to tell you that she was wrong. She should not have doubted you. She wants you to know that her granddaughter Mora is proud to serve with humans." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "Tell her thank you." After Vexthar's image disappeared, Sarah allowed herself one moment of doubt. What if they failed? What if this crazy plan killed everyone instead of saving them? What if she was leading all these people to their deaths for nothing? Then she remembered the vote count. 8,000 beings had chosen to stay. They had chosen to believe in the impossible. She couldn't let them down. 2 days before the operation, Sarah called a final meeting. Every person on Firebase Alpha came. They filled the cafeteria, the corridors, every available space. Humans stood next to Zarathi. Valorans stood with Kryn. They had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. A team that believed in doing what couldn't be done. "In 48 hours we attempt the impossible," Sarah said. Her voice carried through the station's speakers to everyone. "I won't lie to you. This might not work. We might all die. The neutron star might hit the threshold system anyway. But I know this, we tried. When the galaxy said it couldn't be done, we said watch us. When they said evacuate and accept defeat, we said no. We will fight. We will hope. We will do the impossible thing because someone has to." The room erupted in cheers. Humans shouted. Zarathi chimed with their bell-like voices. Valorant stomped their feet. Even the Kryn howled. Tom the welder stood up. "Commander, I got a question." "Go ahead, Tom." "When we pull this off, when we save those 47 billion people, what do we tell them? What do we say when they ask how we did it?" Sarah smiled. "We tell them the truth. We did the math. Then we did it anyway." More cheers. Sarah looked at Marcus, who was grinning despite his exhaustion. She looked at Krelvin, whose crystal body was bright yellow with excitement. She looked at Mora, the young Valoran engineer whose friend had died in the testing accident. They all believed. Against all logic, against all reason, they believed. The day before the operation, Sarah walked through Firebase Alpha one last time. She stopped at the memorial wall, where 327 names were carved. She touched each name, remembering faces, remembering voices. "We'll finish what you started," she whispered. That night Sarah actually slept. Not much, maybe 3 hours. But she dreamed of success. She dreamed of the neutron star sailing past the threshold system, missing it completely. She dreamed of 47 billion beings waking up to a normal day, never knowing how close they came to death. When she woke up, it was Operation Day. The Defiant launched from Firebase Alpha with a crew of 20. 10 humans, 4 Zarathi, 4 Valorans, 2 Kryn. They were all volunteers. They all knew the risks. The ship would have to get close to the neutron star, closer than any ship had ever gone before. The radiation would be intense. The gravity would tear at the hull. But someone had to be there to manually control the anchors. Sarah sat in the captain's chair. Marcus was at the engineering station, his fingers already dancing across the controls. Krelvin was at the science station, monitoring the neutron star. Mora was at navigation. Captain Throck was at tactical, ready to handle any problems. "All stations report ready," Sarah said into the ship's intercom. One by one, her crew reported in. Everyone was ready. On Firebase Alpha, 8,000 beings watched on screens. On Earth, billions of humans waited. On hundreds of worlds across the galaxy, people who didn't even know this was happening went about their lives. "Take us in," Sarah ordered. The Defiant's engines fired, and they began their approach to the neutron star. On the screen, Sarah could see it. A tiny ball of impossible density glowing with radiation. It looked small, but Sarah knew it was as heavy as an entire sun compressed down to the size of a city. Beginning anchor deployment, Marcus said. Anchor 1, online. Anchor 2, online. One by one, the 31 anchors activated. They appeared on the screen as blue dots around the neutron star, forming a sphere of artificial gravity. Distance to neutron star, 100,000 kilometers, Mora reported. Radiation levels climbing. Shields holding. 50,000 kilometers, Mora said. Her voice was steady, but Sarah could hear the fear underneath. Radiation critical. Shields at 70%. The ship began to shake. The neutron star's gravity was pulling at them, trying to tear the Defiant apart. Warning alarms blared. Red lights flashed across every console. 20,000 kilometers, Mora said. Shields at 40%. Marcus, are we close enough? Sarah asked. Marcus stared at his screens, calculating, thinking, hoping. The equations flowed across his display faster than anyone else could read them. He was seeing patterns, finding answers in the chaos. 10,000 kilometers, he said. We need to be at 10,000. Mora, take us in. Commander, at 10,000 kilometers. The shields will fail in maybe 20 minutes, Throck warned. Then we'd better work fast, Sarah said. The Defiant pushed forward, fighting against gravity that could crush a planet. The hull screamed. The engines roared. Every system on the ship was pushed past its limits. 10,000 kilometers, Mora announced. Shields at 20% and falling. Now or never, Marcus said. He looked at Sarah. Give the word, Commander. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. This was the moment everything depended on. 8,000 beings on Firebase Alpha. 47 billion in the Threshold system. All of them counting on this one moment. Do it, Sarah said. Fire all anchors. Marcus pressed the button and the universe screamed. The anchors fired all at once and reality itself seemed to break. Sarah felt it before she saw it. A pressure in her chest, like the air was being pulled out of her lungs. The gravity fields from 31 anchors combined into something massive, something that shouldn't exist. They were creating a pocket of artificial gravity strong enough to move a neutron star. Anchor status, Sarah shouted over the alarms. All 31 firing at maximum power, Marcus yelled back. His hands flew across the controls, making tiny adjustments every second. The star's responding. It's moving. On the main screen, Sarah watched the impossible happen. The neutron star, an object so dense that a teaspoon of it weighed more than a mountain, began to shift. It wasn't fast, but it was moving. The anchors were pulling it toward the black hole. Distance to black hole 30 million kilometers and closing, Krelvin reported. His crystal body was flashing rapid colors too fast to read. The neutron star is accelerating. Shields at 5%, Throck warned. Hull temperature rising. We need to pull back. Not yet, Marcus said. The trajectory isn't right. We need another 3 degrees adjustment or it'll miss the black hole completely. Sarah looked at her crew. Mora's silver skin was turning dark from stress. Krelvin's crystal body had cracks appearing in it. The 2 Kryn engineers at the back stations were holding onto their consoles as the ship shook. The human crew members were sweating, their faces pale but determined. Can you make the adjustment? Sarah asked Marcus. Yes, but I need another minute at this distance, Marcus said. His fingers never stopped moving. Just 1 more minute. Shields failing. Throck shouted. Hull breach in engineering, section 4. Seal it. Sarah ordered, sealing. A human engineer named Lisa worked the controls. We're losing atmosphere in that section. Anchor 7 is overheating, Krelvin announced. It's going to fail. How long can it hold? Marcus asked, his eyes locked on his calculations. 60 seconds, maybe less. I need 90 seconds, Marcus shouted. He looked at Sarah. I need more time. Sarah made a decision. Redirect power from life support to the shields. Give me 2 more minutes, Commander. That will... Throck started. I know what it will do, Sarah interrupted. Do it now. The lights in the Defiant dimmed. The air started to get colder as the life support systems shut down. But the shield stabilized, holding at 2%. 2 minutes. They had 2 minutes before the shields failed completely and the radiation cooked them all. Come on, Marcus, Sarah whispered. You can do this. Marcus was in his own world, seeing patterns in the chaos. His brain was working faster than any computer, finding solutions that didn't exist in any database. This was what humans did best. When the math said impossible, humans found a way anyway. Anchor 7 failing. Krelvin warned. Almost there, Marcus muttered. His hands moved in a final sequence. Got it. Trajectory is perfect.
We can let go now.
Deactivate all anchors, Sarah ordered. The anchors shut down one by one. Anchor 7 exploded in a flash of blue light, but the others survived. The neutron star was now flying on its own momentum, racing toward the black hole at incredible speed. Get us out of here, Sarah ordered. Maximum burn. The Defiant's engines roared to life. The ship turned and accelerated, running away from the neutron star as fast as possible. Behind them, the star approached the black hole's gravity well. Impact in 30 seconds, Krelvin announced. No, wait. It's not going to impact. It's going to slingshot around the black hole's gravity. Everyone held their breath. The neutron star reached the edge of the black hole's pull. Space itself seemed to bend around it. The star began to curve, following the gravity well around the black hole like a ball on a string. It's working, Mora whispered. By the ancient stars, it's actually working. The neutron star whipped around the black hole, moving faster and faster. At the closest point, it came within 1,000 kilometers of the event horizon. Any closer and it would have been pulled in forever. But the anchors had done their job perfectly. The trajectory was exact, and then the star shot out the other side, flying in a completely new direction. Calculating new trajectory, Krelvin said. His crystal body was bright yellow, excited. The neutron star it's going to miss the threshold system. Miss by 2.7 light years. The Defiant's command center erupted in cheers. Humans hugged Zarathi. Valorans lifted Kryn off the ground in celebration. Even Captain Throck, who had doubted from the very beginning, was laughing. Sarah felt tears running down her face. Marcus, you did it. You actually did it. Marcus looked stunned, like he couldn't believe it himself. We did it, he corrected. All of us. Back on Firebase Alpha, 8,000 beings watched the screens and cheered. The celebration spread across communication channels. On Earth, billions of humans cried and laughed and hugged strangers. On the Zarathi homeworld, crystal cities rang like bells with joy. The Valoran worlds lit up their skies with fireworks. Even the normally serious Kryn howled with happiness. And in the threshold system, 47 billion beings had no idea. They woke up that morning like any other day. They went to work, played with their children, argued about small things. They lived their normal lives, never knowing that today they should have died. Never knowing that humans and a few brave aliens had just saved them all. 3 days later, the Defiant limped back to Firebase Alpha. The ship was barely holding together. The hull was scorched black from radiation. Half the systems were offline. But everyone on board was alive. Sarah stood at the airlock as they docked. Through the window she could see thousands of beings waiting to greet them. Humans and Zarathi and Valorans and Kryn all mixed together, all cheering. The airlock opened and Sarah stepped out. The noise was deafening. People were shouting, crying, celebrating. Someone started chanting, "Defiant! Defiant! Defiant!" And everyone joined in. High Chancellor Vexthar pushed through the crowd. His crystal body was bright purple, a color Sarah had never seen before. She still didn't know what it meant. "Commander Chen," he said formally. Then he smiled. Sarah didn't know Zarathi could smile, but his whole body seemed to glow with happiness. "You moved a neutron star." "We moved a neutron star," Sarah corrected, gesturing to her crew and all the beings around them. "How did you do it?" Vexthar asked. "The mathematics said it was impossible. The physics said you would fail. How did you succeed?" Sarah thought about the answer for a moment. She thought about 10 months of work, about 327 people who died trying, about 8,000 who stayed when everyone else left, about humans who mortgaged their entire planet to pay for a crazy plan, about aliens who learned to hope like humans do. "We did the math," Sarah said. "Then we did it anyway." Vexthar's body flashed through several colors rapidly. "That is the most human answer I have ever heard." Tom the welder pushed forward. He was holding a beer. Not coffee, not water, but an actual beer that someone had been saving for a special occasion. He held it out to Sarah. "Commander, you said, 'Hold my beer' when this started." "I think you've earned this back." Sarah took the beer and held it up. Everyone in the docking bay raised whatever they had. Coffee cups, water bottles, Zarathi energy wafers, anything. "To the impossible," Sarah shouted. "To the impossible." 8,000 voices shouted back. Sarah took a drink. It was warm and probably a little stale, but it was the best beer she had ever tasted. Later, much later, after the celebrations died down, Sarah stood at the window of her quarters. She looked out at the stars and thought about the future. Word of what they had done was spreading across the galaxy. Humans had moved a neutron star. Humans had done the impossible thing. She knew what would come next. Other species would study what they did. They would learn from it. They would start to believe that maybe, just maybe, impossible was just another word for not yet. Marcus found her there, looking at the stars. He had a cup of coffee in his hand, finally resting after days of non-stop work. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "I'm thinking about what comes next," Sarah said. "We showed the galaxy what humans can do. We showed them that impossible is just a challenge, not a limit." "That sounds dangerous," Marcus said with a smile. "Good," Sarah replied. "Dangerous is what humans do best." They stood together in comfortable silence, looking out at the universe. Somewhere out there, a neutron star was flying through space on a new path. Somewhere out there, 47 billion beings were living their lives, saved by people they would never meet. And somewhere out there, someone was probably looking at an impossible problem and thinking, "I wonder what humans would do." The answer, Sarah knew, was simple. Humans would say, "Hold my beer," and then they would do it anyway.